This morning, Britain woke to an image that felt both historic and symbolic, a moment of grace in a time of growing unrest. Inside Windsor Castle, under the golden chandeliers of the Grand Hall, David Beckham, the boy from London's East End, knelt before King Charles III and rose as Sir David Beckham. Cameras flashed. The country paused. For a few seconds, unity returned to a nation divided by scandal, anger, and uncertainty. But outside those castle gates, a very different story was unfolding, one of politics, secrets, and a brewing election crisis that no ceremony could hide. Sir David Beckham, for services to sport and to charity, the herald announced. The sword touched his shoulder, a symbol of honor, discipline, and legacy. Beckham smiled humbly, the king exchanged a few words, and the room erupted in polite applause. To the world, it looked like Britain at its best, proud, composed, dignified. But what the cameras didn't show was the unease running through the palace corridors and the streets beyond. Because while one man was being knighted, another story was breaking, one that could threaten the very government that approved this moment of celebration. In his interview afterward, Beckham spoke of gratitude, family, and humility. He said, "I grew up in the East End of London, in a humble family. My dream was always to play for Manchester United and for my country." His voice cracked with emotion. "But today, to be honored by the king, it's beyond words." It was the perfect headline. A national treasure knighted by royalty, an image to warm even the coldest hearts. Yet across London, journalists were scrambling. Because just hours before the ceremony, leaked documents surfaced, a set of emails between senior officials in the Prime Minister's office and the Department of Culture, suggesting that Beckham's knighthood, delayed for years, had suddenly been expedited as part of an election image campaign. The Prime Minister's communications director had allegedly written, "Beckham's honor could help soften the government's approval slump. Proceed before election week." The leak hit social media minutes after Beckham stepped out of the castle, proudly showing his medal to the cheering crowd. It was meant to be a day about legacy, not politics. But suddenly, the nation began asking the question no one wanted to voice. Was this honor a celebration of service or a symbol of manipulation? Beckham himself, unaware of the brewing scandal, spoke with heartfelt pride. "This is a very proud day for me and my family," he said to reporters. "The monarchy has always meant a lot to us. My parents, my grandparents, they raised me with respect for our royal family." He smiled, perhaps not knowing that his words were already being used in political memes and election ads. "A proud East End boy honored by the king," one ad read, a slogan now being linked to the government's campaign page. By the afternoon, the story had split the nation. Supporters called it nonsense. Don't politicize a man's honor. But critics saw it differently. A respected sports journalist tweeted, "When PR becomes tradition, what's left of the truth?" And then came the second blow. A whistleblower from inside the cabinet office confirmed that discussions around Beckham's knighthood had been part of what they called Project Image Reset, a confidential initiative designed to boost the Prime Minister's public standing ahead of the national election. The document listed names: Beckham, a royal engagement, and even a royal charity initiative scheduled just days before the voting deadline. As evening fell, the front pages told two stories. The tabloids showed Beckham smiling with his medal. "Sir David shines for Britain." But the political papers ran darker headlines. "Night of the polls, inside the election spin." Outside Downing Street, reporters shouted questions the Prime Minister refused to answer. One voice cut through. "Did you use a national hero to save your campaign?" Silence. Cameras flashed again, the same sound as Windsor's ceremony, but now sharp, accusatory, electric. In Manchester, crowds gathered near Old Trafford to celebrate Beckham's honor. For them, it wasn't about politics. It was about pride, memory, and nostalgia. "He deserves it," said one fan. "Politics has nothing to do with it." But in Westminster, the opposition leader seized the moment. "The people deserve transparency," she said. If this government used national honors to manipulate public emotion during an election, it's not patriotism. It's propaganda. Her speech went viral within hours. Hashtags like Beckham leaks and election scandal flooded every feed. Meanwhile, Beckham stayed quiet. Friends close to him said he was hurt and disappointed that his special day had been caught in political crossfire. But in truth, he was still proud, and he had reason to be. His Foundation for Children's Welfare had just reached its 10-year milestone, helping thousands around the world. "I don't do charity work because I have to," he said in his interview. "I do it because I love making a difference." That line, sincere and human, resonated deeply, even among those angry about the political manipulation behind the scenes. As the days passed, investigations began. Whistleblowers were questioned, emails were verified, and what started as speculation became scandal. News outlets revealed that 3 senior aides had resigned quietly. The Prime Minister's office issued a carefully worded statement. The conferral of honors remains independent of government influence. But leaked memos told another story, handwritten notes suggesting coordination between cultural committees and political strategists. One chilling phrase stood out: "Control the narrative before the polls open." Across Britain, the mood shifted. What was once admiration turned to unease. "If they can use someone like Beckham," one commentator said on live television, "they can use anyone." Public trust dipped again. And through it all, Beckham's silence became his strength. He refused to comment on politics. He appeared on charity visits, smiling for photos, holding hands with children, choosing hope over headlines. "What matters," he told one interviewer, "is that kindness still means something, no matter what's happening behind the curtain." But the curtain was falling on Westminster. The election date loomed closer. Rumors swirled of a snap resignation, of a leadership reshuffle, of a government losing control of its own spin. Late-night talk shows mocked the Beckham bounce, a supposed boost that backfired. Even the palace was forced to issue a statement. Honors are conferred solely on merit. The crown remains politically neutral. The words were firm, but the damage was done. On the final week before Election Day, new footage surfaced. A private conversation recorded between campaign strategists. One voice said, "Beckham gave us 2 points in the polls. That's all we needed." It was undeniable. The honor had been weaponized. The opposition called for an inquiry. Protesters held banners outside Parliament reading, "Don't use heroes as headlines." And in that moment, the nation realized something bigger. This wasn't just about politics. It was about trust, truth, and the fine line between celebration and control. Election night came. The results were closer than anyone predicted. The ruling party lost key seats but clung to power by a thread. The Prime Minister spoke of resilience and renewed unity, but the cheers were half-hearted. Outside, people gathered again, not to riot, but to reflect. And in the midst of it all, Beckham appeared once more, this time walking quietly with his family, waving to a few supporters. No press conference, no statement, just a man trying to reclaim his moment from the noise. And yet, even as he smiled, the conversation continued. What happens when the symbols of pride become tools of politics? One anchor asked. No one answered. The truth was already clear. Britain had turned a ceremony into a campaign, and a hero into a headline. But some symbols endure. In the end, Beckham's humility outlasted their strategy. As the final credits of the day rolled and the lights of Windsor faded, one line echoed through the screens. "This is Brit Alert News, and if you still believe truth is not treason, then subscribe, stay awake, and never stop asking why."